Hey everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Mountain Beast Radio. My name is Justin Chernopeski, and tonight with my good friend Doug Mackay, we're going to be jumping right in to the world of mysteries, murders, conspiracies, and everything else macabre. So, tonight, for the first topic, we're going to be talking about the Billy Meier UFO case. And this is something I've always wanted to talk to Doug about for a long time. We kind of, I've brought it up a few times, but we haven't really got into detail about it.
You've been reading about it since high school.
Yeah, I've been into it for a while, and I've been researching it for years, so I'm really looking forward to it. I'm super interested in it. Doug is a huge skeptic and doesn't believe any of it. But yeah, before we start, Doug, do you want to tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
I am a working class white boy from Alberta, Canada. I am currently unemployed, so that's a fun thing.
Perfect time to start a podcast.
Yeah. And grew up interested in all mystery type stuff. And as I got older, I got much more skeptic than I was when I was a kid. And me and Justin have had a few solid, let's say, debates. And we figured, hey, why not let some other people listen to our viewpoints and see if we can't find the divide.
It's also worth mentioning, Doug and I have been friends for a very long time. I've known you since, grade 5?
Grade 5.
And we actually met each other on the topic of ghosts. Me and another friend from back in the day were going to go ghost hunting. We were going to go explore a graveyard. And Doug had a really cool flashlight. And he lent it to us.
See, and back then I was too scared to go because I believed everything when I was a kid, which might be why I am the way I am now.
I like to believe things. Not everything. But I like to remain very open to the possibilities, because anything's possible, right?
I'm open to the possibilities until there's a lot of evidence against it.
Yeah, but it could be made up evidence, you know?
I mean, what's harder to believe? Made up evidence or a made up story with contradicting evidence?
Okay, well, you can tell how this night's going to go already. So the Billy Meier UFO case. Billy Meier, or Eduard Albert Meier, that's his real name. He claimed to have been, he claims to have been visited by extraterrestrials since he was 5, back in the 40s. And he was having contacts with these beings from a star system called the Pleiades, I believe. Is how you say it? And these extraterrestrials are more like Nordic, kind of humanoid-looking beings. They're not like your typical gray alien. And so he had contact with these beings from the age of 5 up until, I think, the mid-60s. And then for a period of about 10 years, all the contact stopped. And up until 1975, I think, is when they started up again. And that's when the real interesting stuff started happening, where he claims to have been taken in their ships. They call them beam ships. And they kind of look like your average UFO type craft, like a flying saucer.
Like the media would portray in like a weird way, that they were just like, wow, you were right.
Okay.
You guys guessed it right on. It looks exactly like everything I've seen in a movie.
Now
Crazy.
This is the skeptic side of Doug.
Just saying.
Anyways. Yeah, so he claims to have been taken in their craft and had visited, other parts of the galaxy and the universe. He also claims to have been taken back in time to biblical days. Prehistoric days as well. See the dinosaurs. and just a whole bunch of other wild stuff. So, yeah, it's a very interesting topic.
Do you want me to just jump onto that prehistoric shit like right now?
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Or just time travel in general? Well, basically, Billy Myers has provided photo evidence and video evidence, and you can't see it, but I'm doing air quotes every time I say evidence, since the 1970s.
That was when he first, became public, I guess.
He's also supposedly provided metal samples and sound recordings. I don't know how to pronounce the name of the extraterrestrials. Pleiadian? I'm sure it's some Swedish word, so it's probably like Pleiorn or something.
I think it's just Pleiadian.
Pleiadian? I don't know. And apparently their homeworld is called Era, and it is located in a dimension a fraction of a second shifted from our own. And about 80 light years beyond the Pleiades star cluster.
So apparently Billy Meier's contacts started at the age of 5 with an extraterrestrial named Svath.
Something like that.
Yeah, he was like an elderly looking man from the Pleiadian.
What in the world
was that? This place is haunted. Oh, that was weird.
I don't know what that was.
Before he was having contacts with Svath, before he was 5, around the age of 4, I think he was having astral projection experiences, or that's at least what he described in his contact notes. So basically experiences where he'd be floating above his bed and watching himself sleep and, looking up at the stars, and this whole time he was becoming more and more, aware of the universe around him, and he was gaining knowledge and wisdom, I guess. And then he began these contacts with the extraterrestrial named Svath, and then after that, a woman named ASQUATCH. And these contacts went on till, I think, in 1964.
If you have a question, you simply have to ask it.
And then there was a big break, and then 1975, he began having contacts with different extraterrestrials. I'm pretty sure the first extraterrestrials, Svath and ASQUATCH, I don't think they were Pleiadian. I think they were from the Dal universe, is what they call it.
Svath, I believe, was Pleiadian, but ASQUATCH wasn't.
Okay.
It differentiates
right
in the notes. Myers' contact continued with an extraterrestrial woman called ASQUATCH, who is not a Pleiadian.
Does it say where she was from?
No.
Okay. Well, anyways, 1975 rolls around, and
there was an 11-year break where he didn't have any contact.
Right.
So from 1964 to 1975.
Yeah.
I should stop covering my mouth with my hand.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, and he starts having contact with these other extraterrestrials. One of them named Semyazi, who was a female alien, blonde hair, typical Nordic looking
Granddaughter
alien.
of Svath.
Granddaughter of Svath. Another extraterrestrial that he was in contact with was another male named Ptah.
Or
very strange.
Ptah.
No, I think it's pronounced Ptah. Unless it's a silent P. No.
Like in pterodactyl?
Yeah.
Oddly, one of the photos that he faked. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, so there was Ptah, Semyazi. I think there was a couple other ones. Nira, I think, was another one. And that's all I can remember right now. Anyways.
Just a bunch of ETs.
Yeah. So throughout all of his contacts, they were basically educating him about, you know, the universe and about our existence, and basically just feeding him knowledge and wisdom, which is, I guess, what they believe our purpose in life is. I don't know.
Why him, though? Out of everybody on Earth.
I don't think he was the only one, though. I don't think he was the only person to have...
Has anyone else?
There's been a few other people that have come out. I think there's one guy in Florida, I want to say.
And he's not just piggybacking.
Who knows? Hard to say. But anyways, throughout all of this, he kept records of all of his contacts and wrote the contact notes, as they're called. Basically just documenting all of his experiences with the Pleiadian and, you know, everything they ever taught him so he could share it with the world. In his early years, he spent a lot of time traveling around, like in the Middle East. I believe he was like a bounty hunter or something in the Middle East, and they used to call him the Phantom. And in the 50s, he actually lost one of his arms in a bus accident. So he's a one-armed farmer from Switzerland. I guess that's also worth mentioning that he was a Swiss farmer. And I think he lived in a town called Schmidt-Rudi in Switzerland.
So there's 26 published volumes of the contact reports.
And how long are they?
I'd imagine they probably all differ in length, but I know that if you watch all 154 videos on YouTube, it's like 24 hours worth of stuff.
Yeah, there's a series of audio tapes made up by a guy named Randolph Winters. And he basically goes over all of the contact notes in a way that's like super easy to understand. And, you know, some of the stuff that is spoken of is very like intriguing and intricate, and it's pretty fascinating stuff. It's a very fascinating story. The other crazy thing about this case, as opposed to other UFO contact cases, is that Billy Meier, throughout his, you know, lifetime, had photographed and filmed many pieces of evidence, you know, for this case of the UFOs and of all his other experiences. So there's hundreds and hundreds of photos of these beam ships, as they call them, and supposed photos of some of the extraterrestrials themselves.
Supposed photos of extraterrestrials on other planets, supposed photos of our satellites that he was seeing out of the like spacecraft windows while he was like up above Earth, and supposed photos from like the Jurassic era with like dinosaurs.
There's a lot of weird stuff.
There's a lot of nonsense, but go on. You do your thing and I'll argue later.
So the Billy Meier UFO photos, what do you think of them?
I think that a huge majority of them have been debunked, and another huge majority look like you could have easily made a fake UFO and used camera tricks.
Okay, there's some of them that look blatantly fake, and I'm not gonna like lie. Like you can tell, like there's depth of field issues with some of them. Like there's one photo I'm looking at right now where this UFO is hovering above, looks like some sort of vehicle,
like a golf cart or something.
Yeah, like a.
Oh, maybe it's
like a van
small
or something.
car.
But you can tell, like the UFO's out of focus because it's a lot closer to the camera. Like someone was just kind of holding it with their hand above the camera lens, and the cars in the distance.
But here's
it's so, like, who would, in their right mind, if you were hoaxing a UFO though, would release something like that looks fake? You think he made that one?
Yeah, look, the way I see it is that it was the 70s. People were like looking for some cool shit to believe in, and when this stuff all came out, and as he started publishing it, and he started getting like a bigger name, take an average person and be like, look at this photo. And most people, you're a photographer and like a video maker, director.
Filmmaker.
A filmmaker. That's the words. I just discredited myself because I'm an idiot.
Yep.
But so you can spot like a camera trick
Totally.
fairly easily.
To a degree.
Yeah. But an average person that looks at one of those photos is going to be like, you can tell it's an object. And if you don't know what the object is and it looks like the way that he wants it to look, then a lot of people are going to be like, well, that, like, how do you fake that? It's the same as like a lot of different photo evidence of anything really. If it looks real enough, no one's first assumption is going to be that it's fake.
Right. But all I'm saying is that there's some photos that look blatantly fake.
Yeah.
And that nobody in their right mind, if they were trying to get away with a hoax so intricate, would release something like this one here. They call it the wedding cake UFO, and it's clearly a garbage can lid. I admit
with some
that
stuff
with
put
some
on it.
shit glued onto it.
But here's my thing: is if he published these photos along with all his other ones, why make fake ones if you have real ones?
Because if there was fake ones made up, they would be made up by someone else trying to disprove it.
But most of these photos were published by him.
But no, like he denies some of these ones were published by him, and they're claimed to be fabricated by like government agencies. I know if I was trying to come up with great hoaxes myself, I wouldn't release photos that clearly look fake, like this one. Like, what the hell is that? Like some of these, like the one with the camera in the foreground, like you can tell that this is way farther away.
Or it could be a trick of the camera.
Yeah, but usually you can pick up on those things, especially on like older cameras. It's a lot easier nowadays to fake photos, especially with all the computer technology behind it.
Yeah, but like most of those photos look like photos, like stills from like a bad sci-fi movie.
But they're almost too good to be true.
No.
Right?
Well, that's an even more important thing. If they're too good to be true, they usually are.
Yeah, but what if it actually happened and he photographed them? What do you think they're going to look like?
Well,
you think they're going to look fake or they're going to look real or what?
I feel like
Like, it's not impossible for this to be a true... Like, look at the sun in front of that. Like...
There's claims that he, like, attached...
That's a big tree.
From a distance, it looks like it could be a big tree, but it might be a close-up smaller tree with a smaller thing attached to it. Okay, if you're going to use the government route of... I hate
saying it like that because it sounds so like
ridiculous.
Conspiracy theorist kind of.
But look, if that's the way you want to go about it, if you want to say like these were created by government agencies to discredit him, why wouldn't they just do it the way that every other government agency goes about discrediting people on a call like that everyone claims anyway, and say that he's like insane or a pedophile or some shit like that? Like, why would they go through all the effort to be like, well, let's just make a whole bunch of fake photos when they're, as a government agency, could easily just run his name through the dirt, like they do with everyone else, supposedly.
It worked for you.
What?
To get you to think it's a hoax, right?
No, there's a lot more evidence than just this
I know,
photos.
I'm just saying. Like, I'm sure, because, like, destroying someone's name and, like, image is more of, like, a recent thing to do, it seems. Especially, and it's more of, like, a America kind of way of going about it, I guess. No offense, but this happens to a lot of American UFO contactees.
Do you think that the Swedish government is the one that created these fakes?
Who knows? It could be. I don't really know. Nobody knows.
So for the sake of argument, let's say that the government created some fake photos.
Okay.
And so now he's saying that he didn't take those photos and he's being discredited by government agencies. So that pretty much then you can only leave the photo evidence up in the air. You can't decide either way because there's
it's contaminated with
Yeah.
potential
Fakes.
fakes.
Yeah. So then you would have to go to his video evidence, which I personally have never seen any of the videos.
Okay.
Have you?
I have.
Do they look legit?
There's a lot of them that do, to me, look legit, but then there's a couple that are questionable. And that's just me being honest. But how do I know what a real UFO looks like and how it, how it moves around in real life? I haven't seen one like that. So I don't know.
You're gonna hate me for this.
That's okay.
Because I remember when I said it to you the first time, you were like, "What is that?" Occam's razor.
Yeah, what is that?
Is it more? Occam's razor is basically the less you have to assume, the more likely that it is. Now, so for his UFO videos and photos, for this instance, to be real, you have to assume that there's life on another planet, which isn't a far stretch because there's billions of planets.
Believe that.
Yeah, me too. Then you have to assume that they're visiting Earth.
I already also.
Then you have to assume that they're visiting one guy more than anyone else. Then you have to assume that they are from another dimension and a different star system and have found a way to get to Earth.
But obviously, if there's going to be extraterrestrials, they would come, no matter what, probably from a different star system.
But you also have to assume that they know how to time travel and that they have like he talks about like this spiritual, not realm, but like
consciousness.
They emphasize the spiritual world more than like the material world and stuff like that. So then you have to assume that your consciousness is connected to some other form of world.
Or just the universe in general.
Well, yeah, but there's just a whole lot of assumptions.
There's a lot of stuff going on. I'm not going to lie. Like, I'm not going to deny it.
There has to be a whole lot of assumptions. Then you also have to assume that by taking him back in time to snap photos of dinosaurs, that doesn't go against the time travel paradox in any way, shape, or form.
But to us, it's a paradox. Who knows what it is to people?
Well, then you have to assume that time doesn't work the way that we've.
Well, maybe we don't understand anything.
Maybe
We've
not.
only been looking into it for a very short amount of time.
Maybe it doesn't, but maybe it does, and we have more evidence on the side of that it does than the contradictory side. I'm just saying there's a lot of assumptions that have to be made to reach this point.
For the amount of like bad evidence there's also a whole lot of good evidence, and not just the photos and the videos, but all the information and the contact notes and every detail of the events that went on. If
you got a good imagination, you can make anything up.
He must have a really, really good imagination.
Yeah, maybe he does. Maybe. You never think of that when you watch a movie and you're like, wow, I never would have thought of something like this.
I don't like to, put limits on myself like that.
Some people are just more inclined to think about some weird stuff like that and be like, this would make a great story.
If he was determined.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why I lean on the side of this being more of a hoax than anything. There's still a lot of like actual evidence that it's a hoax. And I don't know what his claims are on all the photographs. I feel like it's too easy for him to just be like, anytime a photo is discredited, for him to be like, it's a fake. Government did it. It's too easy for him to back out that way.
Yeah, but
but the government did it.
But it could be. Like, the government's tried to disprove things before, and they have all their own cover-ups. Like, there's a lot of people that think Roswell was real, and there's a lot of people that think it's fake. But the government says it's like, oh, it was weather balloon pieces that we, recovered.
There's a different theory about that, but that's a whole different episode. But I understand that the government will try and like classify certain information and do cover-ups and stuff like that. But Why would they cover this up?
Because they don't want it to be known
Why
as
not?
a fact to the public.
Why not?
Because then they would lose control of everyone.
Would they, though? We still have to
Well,
live under
that's-
their rule.
No.
Like, right now, the only reason...
Maybe they see it as a threat.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. Another piece of evidence that he claims is from April 14, 1976. He claimed to have a 6-minute sound recording of a UFO that was being pursued by the Swiss Air Force. A copy was made and sent off for analysis, and one of the sound engineers reported that Naval Undersea Sound Center in Groton, Connecticut, they first identified all sounds not originating from the target object. 3 conventional aircraft were detected, 2 of which were propeller-driven, the third was a single-engine jet. Frequency graphs were prepared and a match was looked for in the sound bank archives. The third airplane was a Mirage single-engine jet fighter. No unusual characteristics were detected with respect to the conventional aircraft sounds. Additional background noises detected included a small barking dog, a crow cawing, a European police siren, and some clicks and vibrations, possibly the clicking of the shutter on the camera. No match was ever found in the sound bank for the target sounds of the spacecraft in the study. So, I guess that's them saying we don't know what the sound is that he's claiming is the UFO. But, I mean, I don't know what's in a sound bank.
Yeah, there could be anything.
Yeah.
There could be a lot of stuff missing.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, I'm clearly leaning more towards the fact that I think this is a legitimate story or UFO case, and you are incredibly skeptical about it.
Well, I'm skeptical about it because of the contrary evidence that I've seen.
Yes, clearly.
And I'm not a big conspiracy believer, which some people hate about me. Like, it drives people nuts when I'm like, nah, man, government's not that bad.
The one thing, though, like, for me, regardless of the photos, the good photos, the bad photos, and the videos and everything, it's what's in the contact notes that makes me wonder, like, if it's real or not. And the information, and there's stuff in there that is, like, very incredible. And even if it is, like, fake, it is a really, really good, like, I don't want to say, like, good story, but there's a lot of things in there that are, like, good things to live by and to, like, wonder about.
Yeah, but you don't have to believe in aliens to believe that you should be living on a more spiritual plane, or that you should open yourself to, like, peace and love and all that stuff. You don't gotta believe that ET's told us that.
No, but if anyone's gonna know all the answers, it'll probably be someone a lot more advanced and that has taken that next step in existence, you know? If there is a race that's incredibly more technologically advanced than us, they're probably a hell of a lot more, like, advanced on, like, a spiritual level, and have, like, probably higher level of consciousness that could, like, have more answers than what we have now.
I lean on the side of disagreeing with that just because of this. We are a technological species. The most technological species that we know of. Like, confirmed. And the technological side of our species, like the scientists and the engineers and everything like that, tend to lean farther away from the spiritual and the conscious things than...
That's because it sounds so... You know,
So you're saying that when we reach a certain level of technological advancement, that we'll realize or we'll discover that more spiritual side?
Well, potentially, because with advancements in technology, we are able to discover new things.
Yeah, but that's what I mean though. It's like, as you lean more towards like the technical side of society, they tend to stray farther away from the spiritual and the let's say the vibrations of the universe.
I know, but there's a lot of like reputations on the line in the scientific community. There is.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
people don't want to be like that kind of outside, alternate.
I just think that if this species of aliens that he claims is seeing him evolved in any similar way to us, which I mean, physically speaking, they evolved almost identically, which I think is also a huge coincidence, then why would they, like, they must be leaps and bounds ahead of us to have gotten to a point where societally they were like, oh, technology has led us to a spiritual or conscious, what's the word? Transcendence.
Well, basically, he said, like, they are leaps and bounds ahead of us.
Well, apparently he claims that the universe is around 46 trillion years old instead of billion, like science claims.
But do you expect a race of humans like us who have only been, studying like the history of the Earth and the universe for a very short amount of time?
We're a blip on the radar of the universe.
Exactly.
But
our knowledge is very, 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 very minuscule compared to.
But you're about to say compared to other species
that could potentially.
Yes.
Be out.
But if you're willing to, God, what's the word? Entertain the idea that there's a species of life in the universe that is extremely more advanced than us and can time travel and travel through dimensions and travel light years at a time. There has to be some sort of balance where you realize that there's also a possibility that we could be the most advanced species in any near solar system.
You think that?
I don't think that that's out of the realm of possibility, because we don't know either way for sure.
No.
Unless you thoroughly believe
the odds are that we are not.
There's no odds, because
there is odds.
No, because if you're going, because the theory, depending on the theory that you believe in, but if the theory that you believe in is that there's an infinite amount of universes or whatever, and there's trillions of different planets that have potential life on them and stuff like that, then on a scale of infinity, there's zero odds, because there's no measurable amount of infinity. You can't measure infinity because it doesn't end or begin. It just is.
Well, does it not begin?
Well, infinity's not a number.
No, but it's vast.
It's more than vast. It's everything.
So I think
because
still.
Because if you go infinitely below zero and infinitely above zero, if infinity was a number, then there is no start.
But we're going from zero.
But then you're not counting infinity. You're counting a timeline because infinity it has no direction. This is a weird, it's a weird side topic.
God damn it.
But anyway, you have, the balance is that it's the same as, what is it, Arthur C. Clarke, I believe, who said there are two possibilities. One is that we're alone in the universe, and one is that we're not, and both are equally as terrifying.
Yeah.
So there's two possibilities.
It's a possibility that we're not alone, but I think it's a very small possibility.
But so there's two possibilities then, that we are either the most advanced or not the most advanced.
So do you think?
But it's equally as likely, because we don't know what the chances are that there's something more advanced than us, because we've never seen anything more advanced
that
than
you
us.
know of.
Right, but you
as
can't
a regular, everyday man, everyday working.
Because I'm not a government agent.
Well,
so I don't. So I don't know.
You don't know all the secrets.
No, I don't. But I feel like most secrets in the government are Earth-based.
So do you not believe there's more intelligent life in the universe?
I believe that there probably is more intelligent life in the universe, but based on what we know about what you need for space travel and long distance space travel, I don't believe that I personally don't believe that we would be visited anytime soon.
But just think how far we've come in the last 100 years.
But we're nowhere near close enough to even think of like outer solar
No, but we
system
went
space
from
travel.
being a totally land-based species to going to the moon.
Yeah, but
That's pretty significant.
it's a significant leap for an Earthling.
Yeah, but for somebody...
But it's not a significant leap if you look at even the scale of our solar system. Like, we haven't figured out... for me personally, I think that if anything is going to travel throughout the universe, it's going to be artificial intelligence. Because it can't die, through age. I think that is if any species in the world... Because... This is an assumption based on what we know about life on our planet and the assumptions we have to make about life on any other planet, because there are laws to physics that should be followed throughout the universe if we are correct.
We don't know.
I know we don't know 100% if we're correct or not, but based on the evidence that we have, then things that are born or are that organic organisms die eventually.
But it's also worth noting that according to Billy Meier, these extraterrestrials had lifespans that were anywhere from 800 to 1,000 years old.
Okay. But now what we know about space travel would require you to be magnitudes older than that.
That's
to
with
get from
our current technology, though.
Yes,
which is very, very primitive compared to, a race that's thousands and thousands and thousands of years more ahead of us, millions.
Yeah. Another claim is that there was another planet in our solar system called Malona, which was destroyed by its inhabitants. That one, to me, here's the reason why that one bugs me.
When was this supposed to have happened?
Doesn't give me a time.
I'm going to need you to back that up.
It's from his books and contact reports. It's just one of the points raised in his contact reports, is that there was another planet that was destroyed by its inhabitants. The reason that I don't... And I know so many people are going to be like, oh, well, you're ignorant to the fact that we're destroying our planet. I understand that what we're doing isn't helping our planet in any way, shape, or form, but this was right in the middle of the Save the Earth kind of movement. It was when the 70s was when people started pushing back against nuclear weapons or energy. One of the reasons we don't have nuclear energy yet is because people still believe that it's going to be a major issue. Yeah. And if it's I believe that nuclear energy is the best future, but people are scared of it. And so there was a lot of campaigns in the 70s and 80s, 60s, 70s, and 80s that pushed back against it. Because, since the 50s, people have been, talking about
people
how...
associate it with weapons.
Yeah. Nuclear meltdowns aren't a good thing. Obviously, we've got Chernobyl and Fukushima and stuff like that. But, one of the reasons why I don't like that he mentions this planet that destroyed itself, a species that destroyed itself, is because it was too much of the narrative at that time that it was time for humans to change because we're killing ourselves and we're slowly going to kill our planet. It just... if you want to talk about conspiracies, then you can look... There's obviously the hardcore conspiracies of, the government is against the people and they're pushing so that, like, they're pushing for us to continue destroying our planet for their own gain or whatever. The other side of that is that there's a completely different group of people that people would call like the lefties or the hippies of the time that pushed back against other forms of, or pushed back against what the government was doing because they believed that we were going to destroy the planet and stuff for their own gain. Now, if you might think that because their cause is a more of a noble cause, that it doesn't seem like... That's the thing about conspiracies, is that a conspiracy theory, the reason it becomes a conspiracy theory is because it's like against the people or against the moral right, like the right moral choices. But conspiracy theories can go both ways. You can make a conspiracy about something to push a moral agenda, but if it's not true, it's still a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
And that's just why that one bugs me, because it's right in the middle of like that era where it was like humans need to change and we're going to destroy ourselves, and then all of a sudden he's like, guess what, there was another species that did it, totally killed themselves. And that's just like, and it doesn't even mean like, I don't even mean that he did it specifically to push that narrative, but he could have just pulled it from the media and been like, hey, that's a good talking point and I'll put it in there.
Or it was actually right.
But there would be evidence of that though.
Do you believe that there's parallel universes?
Yeah, I believe that every time you make a choice, I believe in the multiverse theory.
It splits and kind of divides.
Yeah, I do believe in the multiverse theory. That, yeah, there's multiple universes created.
So there could be a universe where that planet exists.
See, but then again, the multiverse theory depends on the infinite. Like, it depends on infinity.
You know,
because there's an infinite amount of changes that can happen with an infinite amount of decisions that are made.
I also want to say, because I think it kind of relates to this, is that it's explained that, or it was explained to Billy that everything in the universe is first created with a thought of it, right? What do you think about that?
I don't know.
So, like, if I think, I don't know really how to put it in.
I understand what you're saying, is that, like, if you think that there's a 19-headed dragon, somewhere in the universe there might be a 19-headed dragon now, because it manifested via your conscious energy. I personally, the reason that's hard to believe...
Well, of course, it's going to be one of the hardest things to believe.
Yeah, because
it sounds so...
And there's no
ridiculous
evidence of it.
No, and we're not going to find evidence of it for, if it's real, a very, very long time.
Okay. So,
but if you believe in, like, the multiverse, like, infinite parallel kind of thing, then that's got to be kind of plausible to you.
Well, that's the thing. That's the
You think there's...
That's the paradox of the multiverse theory, is that you basically, if you believe the multiverse theory, to a degree, you have to believe that anything is possible.
Right. But anything could be possible. We don't know.
But
is the thing.
Yeah, in another universe, on a separate dimension, there might be some wild shit going on.
Yeah, like these Pleiades who exist.
Okay,
in a different
fine.
time.
Okay. If you want to use that, then yes, I technically believe that there could be another species that can travel between dimensions.
Well, okay, do you believe in ghosts? Do you think ghosts or spirits or that kind of energy is real?
I did.
Don't.
No, I did.
I know you still do.
I don't know. Okay, that's the one that I don't know. That's
well,
because I still get creeped out a lot.
What do you think spirits or ghosts are? If they're real, they're a being that exists, in a different plane.
But it might not be a being. It all depends if you believe that ghosts are conscious or not. If you believe that a spirit is conscious when you see it when it's outside of a human form or whatever,
I think it is.
See, I don't know if I do. It could be.
Why would a spirit exist with no conscience?
It could be an imprint on time.
What the hell does that mean?
It could just be that, like, like the energy, like let's say for example, like, okay, so you know when the U.S. bombed Japan in World War II, shadows were burned into the ground. Like,
no, I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
You know, so when people that
shadows burned into the ground.
Because the radiation and like the nuclear blast itself was so like there was so much energy blasting away from like ground zero that to a certain distance it was so intense that like a shadow would cook into the ground because you're absorbing
or whatever is around the shadow would cook in deeper.
Well, whatever.
So your body would
like,
shield it.
So like if you're standing and your shadow is cast behind you, you take the majority of the force for that area because you're blocking that energy. So all the ground around your shadow gets hit with a little extra energy than your shadow. So then even when you're gone, your shadow is still kind of cooked into the ground. Mm-hmm. We are so far off topic right now.
Yeah, I don't know where you're going with this.
I'm just saying that if a ghost or whatever could just be like an energy imprint on the universe that you're living in, the space that you're living in.
Or even more plausible, it's energy. Or, wow, you must be hungry.
No, that's my body digesting.
Okay.
But no, we should get back on topic. We'll talk about ghosts another time.
I think it's relevant, though.
Is
talking
it, though?
about spirits, because a lot of the stuff that's covered in the Billy Meier Contact Notes has to do with spirits and how humans are a physical body and a spirit, and how they describe it is fine matter and coarse matter. So your body would be considered coarse matter because it's a physical thing, right? Mm-hmm. And all the spiritual energy is fine matter, like the stuff you don't see.
Okay. Well, but if that translates over to ghosts...
I'm just using that as...
I know, but... I feel like we should forget the ghost thing right now.
Okay.
Just because if we start talking about it, I'm going to talk about it forever. And...
I think it's because you secretly believe in ghosts.
Oh, I kind of do. But I don't know what they are. And I don't think a ghost is conscious.
Okay.
Like, I don't believe in demons or angels because every story you hear about them, they have a motive. And I don't believe that.
But there could be beings that exist still in other dimensions, other planes of existence that know the things that scare us and the things that, like, Earth people fear, like demons and all this religious stuff. And they could use that, you know.
To what gain, though?
To take your energy.
Like screams and monsters.
I don't know. Yeah, they're coming tonight to get screams to make themselves more powerful.
Anyway, another claim from the notes, or reports, as they're properly called, is that the nearest inhabited solar system is 5 light years away from Earth. And different worlds are inhabited by human forms of life. To me, I don't understand why if you evolve on another planet, unless it's nearly identical to Earth and the conditions are nearly identical, would you evolve the same? Like, the same form. It would
probably go off in a very, like... The variation probably wouldn't be that intense.
Well, it depends. For that to be true, you have to assume that the human form is evolution's like near perfect form.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but maybe like the human form is only capable of living in an environment that, you know, has boundaries. Like,
well, yeah, but like, I just mean like. It was one of the weird things that just in sci-fi movies I always thought was kind of weird. Like one of the reasons why the Alien movies are so good is because the alien doesn't look human.
No.
Like it's got a tail, it's got a weird long head, it's covered in spikes.
And I don't deny that there's life elsewhere that is going to look like that. There's millions and millions of species on Earth.
Right. But the thing that I'm saying is that like the conditions to evolve the way we did would have to be so similar on another planet for them to evolve that similar to us. Yep. Like to even look like a certain race of our people. Like, because he said that they look like Northern European or Nordic or whatever. Like, that's a huge, like, I guess a leap to take, considering, like, that would, and I understand that in science there's like the Goldilocks Zone around stars.
Where it's just right.
Yeah, where it's like, this planet is inhabitable by humans or whatever.
Yeah.
But, and that's the other weird thing too, is like, just because the planet it would be possible for us to inhabit, doesn't mean that any life ever started there. Because from what I understand of science, is that the bacteria to start life doesn't just like spring up. Like, the theory is that a lot of bacteria was brought to Earth via like meteors and comets and stuff like that. So even if a planet in the Goldilocks Zone existed, it doesn't necessarily mean that life would form on it, you know? From what I understand. I'm not a like physicist or anything like that. But and 5 light years away seems real close. You know?
Yeah, but we don't know.
I don't. I'm sure there's a scientist out there who's like, the closest inhabited planet that we know of is this many light years away.
Yeah.
Because we can, from what I understand, is we can determine livable planets at a pretty far distance. Yeah. But I'm not sure 100% on that. I would have to actually like look into it. But this claim is probably the boldest claim that is testable.
And what is that?
It's that our sun has a dark twin, which is located about 1 light year away. So therefore we live in a binary star system.
Okay. Do you have any more details?
No, that's just a talking point. But even if you were just to say there's another sun 1 light year away from us in our star system, that would be measurable due to gravitational forces. Because that's how we determine where certain planets are already.
Yeah. But if it's always been there.
But why would we never have detected it?
I don't know.
See, because that's how we...
Why would you make that up? Why the hell would you even why would it matter if it wasn't, like... Why would that be a thing to touch on, like, to make up? I don't know.
The thing about making things up is that you can make up anything.
Well, yes, but... Usually people only make shit up like that to try and justify something else they made up, probably.
Or, based on just those few talking points, this dude could have just been like, I know a little bit about science, based on like some books I read, and I'm just going to start saying some wild stuff. That's not out of the realm of possibility.
No, it's not. It's not, but would you, like, I don't know how I can argue this.
I could tell you right now, just off the top of my head, I could be like, oh, just so you know, there's another solar system that runs parallel to ours, like, and we can't detect it because it's always in sync with our own. So it's always hidden.
It might be. Right? Now that you thought about that, it might exist. It could have been created.
I just created another solar system. Anyway, so that's a few things. You got
I was gonna say another thing that's mentioned is that, like, prior to like the last ice age, like I think like a couple 100,000 years ago, maybe 150,000 years ago, I can't remember the exact number, there was already advanced, like human life on Earth, like from another, I can't remember if it was from a Bajaran.
The ancient alien
I'm not saying like ancient aliens, but I'm saying like these beings have been involved with the Earth prior, and according to,
did they
like,
start on Earth?
No.
Okay.
No, they were. I guess you could say we might have been created
in their image.
Well, not in their image, but like,
well, we
why
look identical.
I know. Well, we could be an experiment. We don't know.
Well, that's the whole discussion when it comes to what the Bible means when it says we're created in God's image. Is like it could be that ETs looked like that. We're based off of what ETs look like because their DNA was combined with apes or whatever.
You never know.
That's.
But apparently, there was like all-out war basically on Earth between different like alien races.
Wouldn't we find evidence of that though?
Well, maybe that's why we find all that ancient alien kind of evidence and stuff. We're already finding like archaeological sites that are over 10,000 years old, and we know that.
Yeah. We also found out that like
that goes against the Bible.
Well, okay, there's a lot that goes against the Bible. I don't know if anyone religious is going to listen to this, but if
Most
you are,
likely.
You're going to be offended because I don't believe in that.
Don't take it personally.
Maybe you won't be offended. Maybe you're the kind of person that can listen to another opinion and not hate them, which I can appreciate. The Bible is nonsense.
Okay.
Like, I'm sorry. It's a book. It's like Aesop's Fables, but 2,000 years old.
Well, now's a good time to get into other parts of the Billy Meier thing. They do talk a lot about religion. They talk a lot about, biblical stories. And, there's a claim that Billy Meier was taken back into biblical times in the Middle East where he met the man who, what we call Jesus. I think what they call him, his real name was Emmanuel. And he was...
Emmanuel. It's very
Emmanuel.
Spanish for the Middle East.
No, it's not. It's like of that.
Emmanuel?
Emmanuel, start with a J instead of an I.
Well, that's very Spanish. Like Jesus starts with a J.
It's not. It's not Spanish. Anyways,
I could be talking on my ass.
You are talking
I don't
on your
speak
ass.
Spanish. I also don't speak Middle Eastern.
So yeah, apparently met this guy, and he actually isn't or wasn't some like magical man that we imagine Jesus to be, and everything he did was blown way out of proportion. But there's also a claim that Billy Meier found these ancient tablets in the Middle East, and it's basically old scriptures and writings of.
You mean like the Ten Commandments?
Not the Ten Commandments.
That Moses was given on stone tablets?
No, they call it the Tablet Emmanuel or something like that. And it's full of apparently biblical, information.
So
that's apparently true.
So Jesus wasn't this magical dude.
No.
But he had his own set of like tablets that...
No, I can't remember if this Emmanuel guy was like E.T. himself or was a contactee, kind of like Billy Meier. I think it was the latter. But anyways, that's getting really like... I admit that seems very far-fetched. But who knows if time machines exist in another dimension. If you can travel through dimensions, you got to be able to travel back in time.
Well, technically, time is a dimension.
Well, there you go. Just moving through different timelines.
So this is my biggest question. And not my biggest question, I guess, but the question that I always jump to. And it might be because I have maybe I have an ego. Maybe that's it. Maybe the whole reason I jump to this question every time someone comes out with something like this is because I'm like, what makes you so special? And it's why Billy Meier? And he apparently explained this in Contact Report 24. The E.T. Semyazi. So, okay, the J is silent in that one, but not in whatever their names are. Like,
I don't come up with this stuff, Doug.
Whatever. If you're going to speak a language,
maybe it is
speak it regular.
Plagiarin. I don't know.
Anyway, I believe this is a direct quote from the contact report. For the last time, I trouble myself to explain that any contacts with other persons except you are totally impossible. The reasons are as follows. Okay, so right there, with other persons except you are totally impossible, that discredits everyone else that's ever said they've been in contact with these people.
Right.
So now it's Billy Meier claiming he's the only one that these people have contacted.
Currently or throughout all time?
Well, I'm basing it...
There's got to be more.
I'm saying this because apparently right from the ET's mouth, Semyazi, is that any contact with other persons except you are totally impossible.
Why?
Here's why. Number one, we get in contact with an individual from Earth only on condition that the person has executed studies in all spheres for decades. First of all, huge claim that he's studied in all spheres for decades.
Maybe he did.
Maybe, but that's a giant claim.
He's a very
also
well-traveled man.
He was contacted when he was 5. That's less than a decade old. How could you study in all spheres at 5? It's a contradiction in the very first thing he said.
God damn.
Okay.
Let me read that. Just let me read that.
Okay.
We get in contact with an individual from Earth only on the condition of the person is accused of studies in all spheres for decades. Okay, wait. Before you keep arguing.
No, okay.
Just wait.
I'm gonna let you argue your. What do you got to say to that?
What I got to say is that maybe they don't mean in that lifetime. Maybe they mean
your consciousness through all the lifetimes.
Yes.
Via reincarnation.
For a lack of better term, yes.
Okay. I'll entertain that.
Because they believe. Okay, this is what they believe life is and how it works and what the purpose is. They believe that your spiritual form lives a series of lifetimes for millions and millions, billions of years maybe. And throughout all of its lifetimes, you gain knowledge and wisdom until eventually you're past the point of needing a physical body and you're just spiritual energy.
You transcend into energy?
Exactly.
Okay.
Kind of like, the movie 2001 at the end.
Odyssey?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 2. We can contact individuals from Earth only if the necessary spiritual prerequisites are present. Which means he's the only one on Earth with those prerequisites.
Maybe he was. Maybe he was, or maybe he was the most, the highest up there.
Number 3. We can get in contact with an individual from Earth only if that person has progressed so far in his development that he is able to...
That's what I'm saying.
That he is able to work out and recognize the basic truth in the truth without assistance. The basic truth in the truth? Without assistance, and without considering any statements by other people or any writings. That's literally saying you have to just believe what you believe with zero question. You know what that is? The basis of religion. Number 4, if we get in contact with an individual from Earth, and if those prerequisites are not fulfilled, such a contact is only a preliminary undertaking for a special purpose. After the achievement of the objective, the person's memory of us, etc., is eliminated. Apparently it happened with the person whom we let find the Talmud. Oh, this is the Emmanuel or whatever. Emmanuel guy you were talking about. So basically they help Jesus find something and then we're like, you don't get to remember us. Any duties that require that the individual goes public may not be imposed on such persons since the memory within them is constantly eliminated. They are neither cognizant of the connections nor the actual facts. However, such persons must be highly developed in certain fields of knowledge, as was the case with the finder of the Talmud, who was an expert in languages but whom was burdened too much, unfortunately. This dude has a messiah complex. He's literally saying he was more qualified to talk to these creatures than the perceived Messiah, Jesus.
I don't know.
Okay, number 5. If we get in contact with individuals from Earth, we do this according to certain higher orders and according to the exact number of determined persons. One of the reasons for this lies in the fact that too many people standing in the first position would upset everything. I remember a saying that you use very frequently, and that is very adequate in this respect. Too many cooks spoil the stew. This is a fact that is also true within the laws of directives of creation. Creation alone is the determining factor. Number 6, we are not allowed to make ourselves visible to more individuals from Earth than lies within our responsibility. This precaution responds special concerns of private, military, and governmental desires aimed at taking possession of our ships and all the other things. These guys talk good. To be in contact with several persons would be dangerous for ourselves. That's why we can only cultivate contacts with Earth humans who are known to us as absolutely trustworthy and reliable in every respect. This is of far-reaching importance for our special mission with you and your group. We must be certain in every respect that if the need arises, the contact person prevents bad consequences with all conceivable means. Why not just that one? Why couldn't they just say, we can only talk to one person at a time for our own safety?
I don't know.
They could have left. I would have believed that more than all the other ones previous.
Well,
There's one more. Number 7. To show ourselves to certain selected Earth humans only and taking up communication with them secretly and at remote locations has yet another reason. Countless people are craving for sensation and selfishness only. That's the reason why they want to get in contact with us. In addition, there are those countless ones who, upon seeing us, would panic, something that could produce very dangerous effects. So that one is saying that they only go to people who don't want any gain from the knowledge they're given. Again, this dude has published books and definitely made money off of this, which would put him would disqualify him from their list.
But do we know the books that are out, published by, written by him? Are they written by him? Because I know there's a lot of other researchers who have made books.
The contact notes are his own writing, are they not?
The contact notes, like the tapes, are not his.
Well, the tapes are...
But the notes, I don't know if the notes were, available to buy.
Okay, well...
I can check.
Has Billy Meier... Okay, based on a quick Google search, I have no idea if this dude sold any of his books or writings or anything like that.
I don't think he did.
But even to put them out,
The point of putting them out is to make people aware and to spread the word like he was supposed to. It was his mission to, spread the knowledge, I guess.
Okay, I just read all 7 of those things, and I don't remember if it said whether or not they were supposed to be secrets or not. Either way, okay, fine. Well, I'll assume...
You lost that one.
No. Because it's still... You still have to assume that reincarnation is a thing, otherwise why would he be contacted when he was 5? Anyway.
You don't assume it, it's how it's... how it is in the notes.
I don't believe in reincarnation.
Really?
No. I don't believe in old souls or anything like that. Mm. But anyways.
Must be why you're so immature.
Oh, yeah?
Just kidding.
Anyways. If we assume that he didn't have any sort of profit from any of the media that was created, content-wise, of his claims, then I will say that adds some form of credibility.
Right.
Because I do believe that when money is involved, credibility begins to degrade very quickly. So, Those are from his notes. That's
I do think there's other people, though, who have tried to make money off of his claims.
for sure. Not even too long ago, I watched a video talking about a guy who, I don't know if he's a publicist or what, but he's kind of like the guy you go to get in contact with Billy. And it's like a weird, like I'm pretty sure he makes money.
Is his name Michael Horn?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he makes money.
Mr. Horn.
Good evening, Mr. Horn. Okay. So he's also got a whole set of prophecies and predictions.
Right. He does. Let's go over those.
You probably know more about them than me because I haven't heard any of them, but apparently they are still coming true today. If you believe what you read.
Right.
I haven't read a whole lot into them, but what do you know any of the prophecies? Oops, that was my foot.
Not really. There's a few things. Like, one thing that I found really interesting was that, like, he claimed that Mount Everest wasn't, in fact, the highest mountain on Earth. Like, to us, if you measure from sea level, it's the highest in elevation. But if you measure from the center of the Earth, because the Earth isn't a perfect circle, it's more of like almost like an oval shape, I guess. It's actually a mountain in Ecuador. And that turned out to be correct. So I don't know, like, when that was proven to be true, if it was after he said that or not.
To me, I guess it depends on how you look at it. Some people would see the smaller stuff as more significant, credibility-wise. To me, that's just like, it doesn't seem like it has any relevance, you know? Like, it's kind of...
It did have, like, its place, like, how it came up in, like, the contact notes. Like, There was a reason why that came up. I can't remember specifically, but you got to listen to the tapes. Go and listen to the tapes, and you'll find out. I can't remember everything.
This is from Contact Report 482, November 22nd, 2009.
This is a new one?
Apparently. On the 14th of October, in our most recent private conversation, this is Billy talking to Ta. I really want to say Ta.
Pterodactyl.
Yeah. On the 14th of October, in our most recent private conversation, you mentioned in regard to the predictions that you would deliberate about whether such predictions should continue to be made or not. So what is the corresponding conclusion? So basically he's asking, should I keep giving these predictions or not? And whatever. We have found that all the predictions that have been made since 1975 up to the current time have in no way borne any fruit with the Earth human beings. This has been just as much the case with your predictions and prophetic warnings, which were given no heed. Consequently, many things from your warnings have, in the meantime, come true and also continue to come true. Therefore, we have come to agree that predictions do not cause Earth humanity to become reasonable. Therefore, we no longer want to draw their attention by means of predictions to what the future brings them in terms of evil. For 3 decades, we have made the effort to warn the Earth humans through you and your mission, as you have already done again and again from your side for almost 60 years, which has in no way led to success. So now we no longer want to prepare clarifications for predictions, and we want to end our activity regarding that, which has always taken a great deal of time. So, okay, this is hard to talk about from a skeptic's point of view, because this is me listening to a guy talk to himself.
Well, how do you know that?
I don't, but that's the most believable thing to me, is that this dude is saying, should I continue giving predictions? And then the entity that he's created is saying, nah, no one believes you anyway. It's like giving himself a way out. You know? If these ETs wanted so desperately for us to believe what they are trying to tell us, then why give up? Especially considering 60 years is a long time for us, but if they're thousands of years old or hundreds of years old, 60 years isn't that big of a time frame.
No.
And they're that willing to give up that quickly on humans.
Or maybe just on...
Well, the prediction, like proving through prediction.
Yeah.
I will say this, unless his predictions are like, unless any prediction is like on point, like none of this like like you got, what's his name? Nostradamus, where people are like interpreting that like
Yeah,
the
they're kind of
Twin
manipulating.
Towers. Yeah, they're manipulating the prophecy to fit the event.
Right.
If a prophecy wants to prove anything, it should be
Very specific.
extremely specific.
Yeah. I
It
agree
should
with
be
that.
like 2001, New York, the Twin Towers
At this time.
going to get destroyed. Like, if you can prophesize that and then people don't believe you, then be like, it's a lost cause.
Yeah.
But if you say that and people look back and are like, yo, he said this for sure, and or even beforehand, if you say that, most of the time people aren't going to believe you until the event happens, specifically because no one believes that anyone can see the future.
Mm-hmm.
Or I shouldn't say that no one believes that, but the majority of people don't believe that like any random person that's just like, hey, by the way, Twin Towers are going to collapse, that they're just going to be like, all right, you're a crazy person. Until it happens, then they're like, oh, we should have listened. But if you're just like, you know, like Nostradamus, 2 great mountains of metal will collapse in the whatever he said. I don't even remember specifically what he said. I just know that it was really like vague but specific given the event afterwards. So it needs to be like, if you can predict stuff, predict it, but be on point. Mm-hmm. Make it so that there's no doubt in anyone's mind that you predicted it. Especially if you want to prove some stuff.
Yeah.
So, like, do you have any examples of his predictions? Like, I can look some up, I
I
guess.
don't have any off the top of my head. I'd have to check.
Yeah, because... Oh, let's see. I got types of predictions.
Some of them aren't like event prophecies, though. Some of them are like scientific,
Like
just facts or theories
Okay.
and stuff like that. You
Right.
know?
Yeah. So, Semyazi covered... Is it a female or a male?
Semyazi's a female.
So Semyazi covered her ass when she explained. Since you specifically asked about future predictions, I'd like to give you the following explanation in order to avoid misunderstandings. We know 2 possibilities to see the future. One possibility is that we material consciously travel into the future and observe the event of that time on the spot, as I've done with Mr. Jacob. I don't know who Mr. Jacob is.
Who's Mr. Jacob?
I don't know. This is just what it says. This type we call direct future view. The second possibility is that of calculating combinatorial seeing, as is partially practiced with you and is known by the wrong name or the wrong description, clairvoyance. This kind of future view is also with us uncertain and imperfect and does not rule out faulty observation and faulty descriptions. So that's literally them being like, yo, we can travel to the future and see stuff, but we also do this other thing that's not nearly as effective, but we still do it. Like, why? What is the purpose of the second one if you can travel forward in time?
Yeah, I know. Apparently that Mount Everest thing, that it's not the highest mountain, apparently like it was shortly after Billy Meier claimed that was released publicly.
I want to say this, though. Was it when Billy Meier made that claim? And look, I'm not even going to say that it's impossible for him to know that, because if this dude did study in a bunch of different stuff, and like there's a possibility that he might have just like known
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But did he claim the prediction? Like, did he come out and say this publicly before anyone else? Or was it just that after it was made public, he was like, I already knew that?
No, I think it was already recorded in his notes.
But was it public content?
I have no idea.
Because
of course, he could just say after.
Yeah, you can manipulate any document.
Yeah, or you could make the document after.
Yeah, exactly. And be like, see, I dated it and everything. 2 days before, or whatever you said. 2 days?
I didn't say. I just said it was shortly after.
Shortly after. Okay.
Yeah, 2 days. Oh well, yeah. Plagiarians told me that.
Yeah. Okay. Now, the biggest thing for me is that he had some doubters in his little clique of believers.
In his little group of
believers.
Yeah.
Like,
is that what you call them, or students, or?
Well, the people that hung out with him and were like, "We're with you, Billy."
He basically had like people living at his home that were.
Sounds a lot like a commune.
Yeah.
It's a little culty after a little while, doesn't it?
Well, it does kind of. I don't know you put it that way.
Anyway, so he had some doubters, right? And this to me is probably the evidence against him that would frustrate me the most as a believer, I guess, especially as the specific believers in this situation, because he essentially is calling you an idiot. So what had happened is that he took, I think, 5 or 6 members of his flock.
His flock.
And was like, if you guys doubt that this is real, so I'm going to prove that it's real. And he takes them out, and he starts snapping pictures, and they are there for, I think, a couple hours, and no one sees anything. No events are happening, no UFO sightings, anything like that. But then a couple days later, Billy shows up and he's like, you guys, the UFO is right above you. And he has photographs of them all standing there with a UFO in the photo with them. But none of them saw it. So
that would probably mean... Is this back in the 70s or 80s? Like, is this back in the day?
Yeah. Hold on. I'll show you in a second.
If his camera picked it up and nobody else saw it, whatever. But like there would have to be somebody developing the film that would,
Well, didn't he develop his film?
I don't know. I don't think he did.
Oh?
No.
So this is the event that I find to be the most damning against him for a bunch of reasons. And I'll get into it as I talk about it a little bit. But it was on April 20th of 1975. Meier asked Semyazi to provide evidence to the doubters in his group that they were real, that the ETs were real. The evidence was a flight demonstration, and Meier would be allowed to photograph both the group members and the beam ship in the same frame. Okay? There's
no video.
No. They both, Semyazi and Meier, hoped that this would curb the skepticism in their group, or in Meier's group. So, this is an excerpt from Message from the Pleiades, Volume 1, page 158. 1988, Semyazi. In those early morning hours, I explained to you that I would offer proofs for certain persons living completely outside the spiritual vibrations and doubting everything because of this, that they could see with their own eyes. So I troubled myself to start the ship visibly before all eyes and to then let it disappear. I even tried to fly the ship directly over your waiting friends, among whom was the mentioned person who lacks the spiritual abilities. There were 11 photos taken. And there was 8 members in the photos. So, in all 11 photos, there's a ship. In one of the photos, it looks like there's 2 ships, but he claims that was the camera flash catching the exact moment that the ship was transporting itself to a different location. Okay? So, the photos look pretty decent. You know, you got 8 people just chilling, and there's like a UFO flying around. That's the one.
Okay.
But the eyewitness testimony of the members differs a little bit from what he claimed happened. This is Claudia Jacob, who is present at the scene. This is her testimony. It was August 19, 1991 that she gave her testimony, I believe. I remember that Billy invited us to meet Semyazi one day, so I went with my father. There was a group of us, and we stood for hours waiting and standing around. We never saw the ship. Nothing happened. And then Billy comes by days later with his film and shows us the pictures, and he says that Semyazi was there above us all the time and that we just did not see her. So when this happened, my father was doubting about Billy Meier and what he was telling us. We were standing there. I remember there was no ship. So there's the photos are labeled, I believe. So you got 100, 101, 139, 140, 141, 142, 143, 144, 145, 146, and 147. I'm not sure why there's a huge jump from 101 to 139, but so in those photos, the most easily discernible hoax is that in numbers 101, 139, and from 141 to 144, there is undisputable evidence of double exposure. I believe there's also issues with his times that he posted, like that he claims these photos were taken at.
Yeah.
Where 2 photos were taken supposedly within like the same minute of each other, and yet everyone is like scrambling, like they would have to be scrambling to be in the different positions that they're in.
Yeah.
And then other photos are taken like minutes apart, and they're standing in the exact same spots. So I mean, if you want to chalk that up to him not remembering when the photos were taken or whatever, fine. Then the one thing that I think makes me frustrated, I don't want to say mad. It doesn't make me mad. I just think it's ridiculous. There's an explanation from Semyazi as to why the witnesses never got to see the ship.
Is it because of their capabilities and their...
The material intellect of the 3 persons is very strong. They do not reason and act from spiritual intellect.
Okay. So they're too much into...
They believe that they could, but here in this respect, they are self-deceiving. Their spirit intellect is underdeveloped. They fancy spiritual intellect being the same as material intellect, for they don't see the difference. This is dangerous for our mission, in consequence of which I am forced to make myself decide whether a destruction of the film is not demanded. If I really must do this, then I still have enough time to do that before you get the negatives in your hands. It's literally saying that it's going to destroy the film, and yet 11 photos were still provided. So I trouble myself to start the ship visibly before all eyes and to then disappear. I even tried to fly the ship directly over your waiting friends, among whom was the mentioned person who lacks the spiritual abilities. As expected, this one doubted my ship as such, although he could see it with his own eyes. So,
A different person?
No, this is still the thing saying why they couldn't see it. I don't know if they're saying that unless you're spiritually relevant or spiritually experienced, you can't see it materially. But I don't know. I checked his thoughts and found that in that man no recognition flashed. His thoughts were mere doubts. His material intellect was so strong that he did not notice the penetration of my thoughts, while with the others this was evident, even though they did not understand this process. They felt my thoughts invading by a brief cooling of the forehead, which in ignorance of the fact they took for a breath of wind. Does that not sound insane?
Well, this sounds convenient.
Yeah. And far-fetched, to say the least. That is the one thing that if... Put yourself in the position of those three people.
Yeah.
Okay? You believed Billy Myers, started having some doubts. He said he was going to prove it. Took you out into this field for...
And couldn't prove it.
Took you out in this field for 2 hours, right? You saw nothing and were like, all right, this is obviously bunk. Then a couple days later, he's like, you guys, look, pictures. Like, it was there. And then tells you that the reason you didn't see it is because you're basically too stupid spiritually. It's literally... an insult. It's just a combination of insults.
Yeah. To
come to you 2 days later and be like, it was there. Like, I have the photographs, which are more easily faked than trying. Like, if those three people were like, yeah, we've seen it. Like, or if all 8 people that were there, because I don't know if the other 5 people claimed anything or if they even had testimonies. But the 3 people that did come out and say that they didn't see anything were then basically told, you're too dumb to see it, basically. Or you're not on our level. So, like, it's just a chain of insults all the way down. Like, and I don't think that's far off from how a lot of people, like, discredit other people. Like, to just continually be like, well, obviously you're not on my... It's the same as, like, you get from conspiracy theorists when you're like, yo, man, you sound insane, and they're like, I'm woke.
Yeah.
Which I'm not 100% sure.
Been awakened.
Yeah.
Spiritually.
Like, you know, it's the whole, like, wake up sheeple kind of thing. It's an insult to basically lump you into this group of people where they're like, you don't believe what we believe, so obviously you're sleeping still. The government still got you. You've been drinking the fluoride and breathing the chemtrails, bro. Like, it's that kind of stuff, and it drives me mental.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of good arguments for the case. There's a lot of good arguments against it. You know, this is going to be the issue with a lot of things that we talk about, is that we're not going to know. We won't have a definitive answer.
The thing is that at the end of probably 90% of these episodes is that more than likely, neither one of us is going to change our mind on something. And there's no reason for it, because there's no way of knowing for sure. There's only the evidence given, or there's only the evidence for and the evidence against, and what you want to weigh more.
Yeah. Well, either way, I still think it's a really fascinating story. A lot of the stuff that is mentioned in the contact reports is very interesting. And there's a lot of good things, you know, that could be taken from that and incorporated into your everyday life.
Let us know what you think in the comments. If you got topics that you want us to talk about and research a little bit, let us know.
Yeah, let us know if you have any more insight into the case. And we'll catch you next time with another episode of Mountain Beast Radio, which is not really radio, it's YouTube, but radio sounds good.
Peace.